Well, damn it. Once again, I forgot our EPS files music, Charles, but everybody is going crazy with this Epstein, email drop. How are you, Charles?
I'm very happy. I had a great 10 days I can reveal now in Calcutta, which sounds like a controversial statement to make, but I was uh, at a new friend's wedding of his kid, and they put me up at this club in the center of Calcutta, which is called the Tollygunge Club, Tollygunge. And it's just a spectacular place where it's been in operation since 1895. And, it just works perfectly. It's an oasis. And then I went to the races at the race course. I went over to we had this big that's the main plantation building that was, I think, built in 1790 or something like
Looks like
that.
the White House.
It's very nice. And I did dinner the first night there on the second floor there in the beautiful dining room. Um, that's the main floor when you come into that building. And the thing that's nice about it, some of the fancy clubs in New York, for example, Trump's club that we went to, that golf club, everything was spick and span and really loud and new. Where this is all, much of it's faded but very beautiful. And the staff are just incredibly professional, not obsequious, really nice, and the food was splendid. So, if you had asked me back when I had a friend who, I think he was an intern for Mother Teresa in like the 1970s, and he
Oh.
came back from Calcutta, and he was like, half of the size before he left. He was sick as a dog.
Oh.
But look at that. I mean, that's
Did you
the
avoid getting sick in India? Because that's a
so
feat
far.
in and of itself, isn't it?
So far so good. When I get back to Penang, who knows? I'll probably Ralph all week. But
But why would that happen if you're already gone and didn't get sick?
because
Is it a delayed?
I'll get sick from the Penang food, whatever.
No.
But no, I would say it's India is not a place to go for the inexperienced traveler. But if you've been around a lot, and you want a varied experience, there's so much history there, so much culture there, and actually a lot of good. I don't need more souvenirs, so I didn't buy any, but a ton of nice things to buy, and I look forward to going back at least once or twice a year. In fact, I want to go to Goa again. I've been to Goa once, and I didn't know my history connected to Goa before I went, but now that I do, I want to go back.
You gotta go. Boom. I'm
Exactly.
hired by the Board of Tourism.
Ba-doom.
Charles, people get sick in India due to different bacteria, viruses, and parasites in the food and water that visitors aren't used to, called Delhi belly. Boy, it sounds great. Can't wait to go.
No, what?
Come
No,
to India,
actually,
visit the bacteria and viruses.
no. What gets you is not that. What gets you is, just laziness and not understanding that you can't drink tap water, or you should be very careful drinking tap water. And most importantly, I actually like salads mixed with whatever I'm eating. You cannot eat salads, even in good hotels. There's no guarantee that the vegetables themselves will have been made with clean water. And so you're basically eating dirty water if you take that risk. However, if it's cooked food that you eat, and if you have a tolerance, I've developed a tolerance for spicy food. There was nothing that I ate that was. They said it can handle a spicy, and it wasn't spicy to me. But
Pretty good. You're like Hillary Clinton. You should bring a bottle of hot sauce in your suitcase. I don't ever drink tap water really, even in New York, so that wouldn't be a problem too much for me.
Yeah.
Speaking of New York, Charles, it's freezing. We're on, I think, day 11 of sub-zero temperatures, and 16 days will be a record since, I think, 1965 or something was the... Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you, Charles?
Sure.
It closed in 1979, so I don't know, maybe the answer is no. But I was watching a documentary about the Chrysler building, and they had a fancy lunch club in there called the
Oh,
Cloud Club. Did you ever eat
sure,
there?
sure.
You did.
Yeah, there were a lot of clubs like that, a lot of great ones, but no longer. I mean, as bad as it was before I left, I've got to believe that the people who run big companies are toying. They've been toying with AI more aggressively than I've been, and there's got to be numerous New York City and blue city and state-based companies that are saying, you know what the fuck are we doing here? You know, we it's very. It used to be complicated to think about uprooting yourself from one city and relocating in another. But now that's the perfect excuse to just change the whole way in which you deliver products and services and have your CEOs and group managers interact with one another. So I think the fleeing from New York City and Chicago and places like that, Boston, is it's going to be epic.
Yeah. I mean, it's too bad they don't bring this back. This was an interesting documentary about the construction of the Chrysler building. And it kind of made me sad too, because as you're saying, I obviously wasn't alive, but this era of New York, achieving new engineering heights and the way they
Right.
built the Chrysler building. It was the guy who started the Chrysler, Walter Chrysler, I think his name was, who started the Chrysler company. And these were the highest technology companies in the world at the time,
Right.
manufacturing automobiles. He made the construction of the building kind of mimic the Chrysler factories. And because he himself started as a factory worker, his factories were like super safe because not that he was such a philanthropist, he screwed over the guy who was the architect of the building, but he just didn't want workers to get injured because it would reduce morale and productivity and everything. So interesting history with the Chrysler building. It's gone through periods of falling into disrepair and then being bought
Right.
by other companies. I think they should reopen that Cloud Club and the observation deck of the Chrysler building. It had the highest bathroom in New York City, and Chrysler wanted to sit up there and look down on Henry Ford as he moved his bowels, like according to this documentary.
As he processed some Indian food. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I think you're gonna, as I say, I think you're gonna see so many people. The real problem in New York City is that the secretarial staff, the junior staff, and even the middle level staff, they can't afford to live there anymore. And so just the argument that you should go to New York because New York in the 50s was a place where the GDP of New York State was huge compared to the total GDP of the country. That argument doesn't exist, credibly. And you have this moonwalking moron, Mondami, saying, "Oh no, the solution is simple: just raise taxes on the rich."
So
I
stupid.
mean, yeah. But so back on Epstein, so we don't bury the lead of your wonderful poster and story. That I guess release occurred Friday your time, and it's 3 million pages, and so people are going through it, and more tidbits are coming out. One headline observation I have is I'm deeply troubled by what they're doing here, because my understanding in America until I guess quite recently was that each of us is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law to the applicable standard, civil or criminal.
Right.
And it's not like you have to prove your innocence. You are innocent. It's the government's responsibility pursuing, giving defendants the appropriate protections and due process. It's the government's challenge to convince, in the case of a criminal case, to convince a grand jury to indict and then to convince the jurors to convict. And if the government fails in that effort, there shouldn't be a process or decides not to prosecute. There shouldn't be a process where all the investigative materials, many of which can be crackpot leads. I mean, think about the nutcases who have sent you and sent me ideas that we ought to focus upon, and then magnify that, by we're just small beer compared to the Justice Department, compared to other parts of our government. Think about the number of crazy referrals that come in and came in on this Epstein thing, and then to circulate it all, um, now creates this precedent where if God forbid Newsom wins, Democrats gain control of the House and the Senate, we already have that moron Molly Ringwald saying that any MAGA supporter is going to be tried for treason. Imagine, if the January 6th exercise became even more magnified now. People said, we demand to see the files on all the people who were, stood accused of January 6th.
But shouldn't we presume that that will happen based on what is already happening?
But it's preposterous. It's preposterous. And, some of what I have seen, and again, I haven't gone to the actual source documents to check them, but some of what I see does ring true. Some of what I see is Epstein and his supporters covering his ass. And, while, far be it from me to defend Bill Gates, who I think is his life. I mean, he's got a lot of money, so maybe that counts for something. But the number of lives that person has destroyed in places like India and across Africa, now he wants to move the earth slightly further away from the sun. I mean, these guys got more crackpot ideas than Methuselah in Washington Square Park. But all that being said, if it's true that the email about the STD is an email from Epstein to himself, why did the government choose to release that? That doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe they wanted to, piss off Bill Gates. I don't know. But yeah, it is. I mean, you can see, let me see if I can find that email real quickly here, but it just says from Epstein to Epstein.
Yeah, and I never did anything along the lines of what we're talking about here, but when I want to have a note in my files, I send an email to myself. Doesn't mean it's necessarily true. If I see something that's interesting, I'll just shoot myself an email, and then I know where to find it.
It's clear that Epstein is far more sinister than you are, and the notion that, for instance, somebody like George Webb or any of the people who have attempted to thwart my progress could easily send an email to themselves filled with scandalous material and just write, "Dear Jason, thanks for the 9 billion hookers," or whatever, and then say, "Oh, look at this email to Jason about hookers." It's like, well, who wrote that?
Well, and then let's get back to, Beach Barbie Bondi, giving that early Fox appearance or whatever it was with the influencers, where she said, "I've seen all the stuff was on my desk.
Right.
I've reviewed it, and I'm going to release it." And now we learned that so far there are 3 million pages, and I don't know how many, whether it's pages or documents, but 3 million of somethings, and that's supposedly only half of what the government had. How do you? I know it was early days as AG, but how do you say you have the entire file on your desk? What does that tell you about the protocols and procedures in the Justice Department and how easy it is to bamboozle Beach Barbie Bondi? Or any attorney general for that matter. So this
did you see this here, Charles, on screen? It says from Jeffrey Epstein to, this is the JE Vacation email address, July 18th, 2013. Dear Bill, I cannot believe that you have chosen to disregard our friendship developed over the last 6 years. It's a little bit, my screenwriting professor at NYU, who had an incredible Chicago accent, was like, it's a little bit expository, this email. It's just laying it all out there. It seems, perhaps, I don't know.
Again, the idea that Epstein would think that he is of the same level as Bill Gates and be interacting with him. I mean, how the fuck did he get connected up to a married centibillionaire on the strength of no resume? How did he, I think the answer is somebody helped him get to some key people. So one key person was Ghislaine and her friendship with former Prince Andrew, that allowed, when Epstein was able to get in there, that allowed him to network amongst Andrew's friends and Maxwell's friends and the glitterati in the UK and Europe. So that was one way. When he got to Les Wexner, that was another way to network with all these fancy deal guys around the world. But again, what is this guy? There was an email in there. I don't know if it was the Gates. No, it was the email with Branson, where he's talking about how we need to use our knowledge of the world and the world events to trade currencies. I mean, that is up there. That is a profound statement that could easily be attributed to Hee Haw Harris. Use your knowledge of the world to trade currencies. What the fuck are you talking about?
Charles, I see evidence that this could be an elaborate coded messaging system. For instance, this is sent from Richard Branson to Jeffrey Epstein on September 11th, 2013, 213-930-03. Okay, this is just loaded with 333s. He's got a 17 in here. I'm not talking about numerology again. I'm talking about some sort of cipher, that if this is a sophisticated encoded message and somebody who knows how to decode it, there's a lot here that they put this out in the public. Why would we presume? I mean, let's take for granted that Epstein is working with the intelligence agencies of the world, Mossad, CIA, whatever it is. They're just sending emails around. I don't think that's the beginning and end of it.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't the old system in the spy novels that you had these one-time ciphers?
Right. You have an ad in the newspaper and the guy rips out the classified ad and has some way of decoding that message. Right. That's what I mean. Why are they just sending all this stuff in the clear? I don't know. There's more to this.
Right. But, one common thread is a lot of these people, there are credible allegations against a lot of these people in the Epstein network that are shaky as fuck. I mean, take Branson, for example. When I was working for the Japanese, they were very proud that one of their top clients in London was Branson. And so I attended what I thought was a very good business development meeting with the CFO of, Virgin, whatever you called it. And that was on a trip across Europe that took, I think, 3 weeks. And then I get back to New York, and in pre-email days, and I sent, a nice letter. Didn't get an answer. So I called the number and said, I'm just curious. I want to make sure everything's okay with the CFO. You haven't heard, sir? What? He killed himself. Like, what?
Whoa.
And then well, I guess he won't be coming back.
Obviously, you haven't heard. You're not emailing a dead guy.
I wasn't emailing. This is pre-mail. This is right. the Wharton email.
Why did he kill himself?
I don't know, but there are allegations when you look into Branson in the early days of the Virgin Group. There are allegations that he didn't make his money all that cleanly. So, a lot of these characters that Epstein was associated with have, I believe, vulnerabilities, let's put it that way, that somebody was exploiting. And I don't believe that Epstein was smart enough. And another thing, I mean, I'm horrible with punctuation, but I'm pretty good with spelling. And when I see somebody who's supposedly this numbers genius, financier genius, with these typo-strewn emails, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Another thing I don't buy is that to high-level business people, to the extent they use emails, and most of them switch to texting and other methods, they're very short. They're a sentence. They may be a one-word. They're not this long, dear diary entry about this and that, and the STD to my,
That's what I mean. It's very expository. It seems almost like it's planted there to misdirect.
Yeah. And again, we've fallen for, not you and I haven't, but I think people have fallen for, well, yeah, where are the emails? We want to see the emails. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Where are all the investigative files on the Clinton Foundation?
Right. Why aren't we looking at that?
And
At CNN,
So
the Chicken Noodle Network is focused on the ties to Trump.
yeah, and I guess they've got, Hillary Clinton in the drama of Bill Clinton of being possibly held in contempt on Wednesday this coming week. So this is a nice, and some it's sort of a distraction, but actually, these emails are beginning to show what I think we'll see more of, and that is that Clinton famously didn't use email. I don't believe that, but as a guess, he had Tina Flournoy or somebody like her, and Hel Urena, send messages on their email on his behalf. But I think that when you're talking about arranging any kind of a meeting, for example, with Bill Gates, people of that level, there's a lot to it. It's not, you don't just call up Bill Gates and say, "Hey, you want to have lunch tomorrow?" I mean,
Yeah,
secretaries approach secretaries,
layers, right?
And there's back and forth internally. Well, can he do that? He's supposed to be with, Nelson Mandela in South Africa, looking noble.
Russian hookers in St. Petersburg.
He joined the Russian Hooker of the Week Club, and Arena is going to be in town that day, bringing some caviar. And typically people that high, they've got so much going on in his foundation, maybe when he was still on the board of Microsoft, so many different things competing for his attention. And maybe a childhood friend would be able to get through and just pick up the phone, but no Jeffrey Epstein is going to be able to do that.
Yeah, like his kids and stuff like that, obviously, but right.
Like, remember Hillary Clinton? My personal emails, the wedding plans for Chelsea, arranging yoga lessons. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, Hillary Clinton and yoga go together like peanut butter and gasoline. I don't think so.
Like peanut butter and a fluffernutter.
That goes together. I mean, she's, I like the fluffernutter, Charles.
Oh, God. Isn't
I
a
haven't had one
fluffernutter
since I was a little kid. Yeah, no, fluff is not something I would eat.
It was a snuffernutter or whatever that she would have. But anyway, the fluffernutter wasn't that like marshmallow and
marshmallow
white bread and
fluff is a spread. Fluffernutter cookies, this wants to get us. Fluffernutter sandwich is what it is. See, AI is trying to complete my thoughts, and it doesn't get it. Fluffernutter is a peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwich. I don't know if it exists anymore, but at one point in New York City, there was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich restaurant that I guess it must be gone because they had their own brand of peanut butter that I forget what the name of it was.
Yeah, it was connected to a vomitorium. I mean, that's disgusting. I guess as a kid, it's fun to have them, but thank you.
Peanut Butter and Co. Maybe. Yeah, it looks like 2016, and maybe it went out of business. Greenwich Village. It was there. Yeah. Your old favorite restaurant, Charles. Peanut Butter and Co.
Exactly, and CO, Charles Ortel. But I think the Epstein story. There's going to be it'll be weeks on this, maybe longer.
Yeah,
going through all these emails.
Absolutely. They love it. And actually, one thing that's interesting about it is I'm finally in agreement with Palmer Luckey. He's been railing against All In podcast host Jason Calacanis, who has hidden his pretty close relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, sending emails and things like that. So we'll see what the fallout is. It seems like this is a scandal that will touch many people. When you think about it in that context, Charles, this whole Jeffrey Epstein saga is really a scandal of unprecedented scope and depth. I don't know that we've really seen something quite like this before, but we're just about at the end here of our intro segment, and people are going to be able to join us for further conversation into the depravity of Jeffrey Epstein and the other developing news items that are piquing your interest, Charles. People can join us on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Also, people who follow me on X at JG_CSTT and sponsor there will get the sponsor exclusive content. Don't forget, Charles has a new X account, Charles Ortel Penn. I don't know if you're on there tweeting so much, Charles, or posting, but people can follow you there if and when until the old Charles Ortel account gets reactivated or reaccessed or whatever it is. We'll be right back, everybody. Stay with us.